Hello, my name's Amanda and welcome to the tutorial for block 9 in my Half Square Triangle Sampler Quilt Along series. Oh my gosh, can you actually believe that we are finally up to our last block for this quilt top? I'm so excited to get started with the sashing and to start putting the quilt top together and to see what it looks like at the end. But we're not quite there yet. Let's get this block done first. So the 9th and final block that we will be making for our quilt along is this one. It is called Windblown Square. I do have to say it really slowly, otherwise I trip all over it with my words. So this is what the Windblown Square looks like. I really quite love it. I love the movement in it, especially through the middle with these beautiful floral fabrics that I chose. When I was choosing fabrics for this block, I tried to choose fabrics that were contrasting but quite matching at the same time. I really wanted to use a fabric in the center that would sort of stand out from the little triangle bits on the side. I think I achieved what I wanted with the final look of the block. I think it's really quite pretty and I really like the effect that the print squares give the block. So this block is another one of those that is made out of 16 half square triangles. They're a little bit easier to piece together compared to the last block that we did. But as always, if you do get confused with the layout of the half square triangles, refer back to the diagram in the pattern sheet and you should be fine with the layout. So as always, you will find all of the measurement and cutting instructions down in the description box below. You will also find the link to the pattern sheet, which has all of the fabrics that I'm using, all of the measurements, as well as that nice clear diagram of the block that I mentioned before. And so with that, this is how you make the Windblown Square block. The fabrics I'm using to make our last block include the Blue Skies Solid for the background, the Tulips print for the inside half square triangles, and the XOXO Basics in Dandelion for the outside half square triangles. So to make this block, you will need to cut 8 4-inch squares from the Blue Skies Solid and 4 4-inch squares from each of the Tulips and Dandelion prints. Like always, begin the block by first making the half square triangles. Do this by marking a line down the center of all 8 background fabric squares. Then pair and pin each one together with a printed fabric square, right sides facing. At the sewing machine, stitch a 1/4 inch seam along the left side of the line, feeding one pair through after the other. Once all pairs have been sewn, turn the chain squares around and sew another 1/4 inch seam along the other side of the line. Snip all of the joining threads and then cut each pair in half along the pencil line with a ruler and blade, resulting in 16 half square triangle units. After pressing the seams towards the darker side of fabric with a medium to hot steamy iron, trim each half square triangle to a perfect 3.5 inch unit using a small set square ruler. Once all 16 half square triangles have been squared up, lay them out together into the Windblown Square design. If you find that you're having trouble placing the half square triangles in the right place, refer back to the diagram on the pattern sheet and use it as a guide. As always, start the piecing with the top row first. Flip each unit onto the one to the left, line up the edges and half square triangle center seams evenly with one another, and then pin into place. Sew a 1/4 inch seam along the edge of one, and then feeding through the next in the same way. At the ironing board, open out each of the center seams first with your fingers, and then press them flat with the iron. After placing the duos back into place, flip one onto the other, nest the half square triangle seam in the middle, and then pin the edge together. Sew a 1/4 inch seam down this side, and then press the center seam open in the same way as before. After piecing together the other 3 rows in the block in the same way as the first, flip the top row over onto the second, evenly lining up the center seams and the seams in the half square triangles with each other. Carefully pin the edge into place and then patiently sew a 1/4 inch seam along this edge, making sure each of the open seams are lying flat before sewing over them. On the back, open up the seam first with your fingers and then carefully with the iron. And then before putting it back into place, give the top side of the rose a press as well. After repeating the same set of steps to piece together the other 2 rows, flip one block half onto the other and align each of the center seams with one another. Make sure that the seams in the half square triangles at either end nest smoothly together too as you pin the edge into place. Sew one last 1/4 inch seam along this side, taking it slow as you feed the bulky seams through the machine. Press the center seam flat in the same way as you've been doing, and then turn it over and give the top of the block a good press as well. Then finally, using a set square ruler, square up the block to 12.5 inches square. So there we have it. There is the last block that we will be making for our quilt along. In the next few videos I will be showing you how to sash all of your blocks together as well as add a border so we have a final quilt top, and then we'll also be going through how to quilt it and bind it and put a label on it so that we have a perfectly finished quilt ready to either snuggle under or gift to someone else or just love and cherish forever, really. Yeah. Of course, don't forget to keep sharing your blocks with me. I absolutely love seeing what you guys are making. And now that we've got all of our 9 blocks finished, put them all together and take a photo of them. I would love to see what they all look like together. I did recently put up this photo on my Instagram just to show you what mine looks like. And I just want to say that this isn't the final layout of all of my blocks. I'm going to swap and change them until I think they look good. And by all means, you don't have to have the blocks in the same order as I do. I want you to put them in the way that you think looks better. And I know, like me, some of you have used the same fabric in a couple of your blocks, and for that reason I don't really want a lot of those same blocks to be near each other. But I'll go through all of that in the next video when we're sashing and placing our quilt top together, so don't worry about that, I'll go through it. So I'm really happy with how all of our blocks have turned out, and I hope you are too. And until next week for our next video, which is all about sashing and piecing everything together, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you another time very, very soon. Bye! So here is the 8th block we will be making. This is a variation of the open window block. So this is another one of those blocks where it's made entirely out of half square triangles. There are 16 units in this block, and with this one there's a little bit of a tricky element.